Morning. It is 8:02. We'll call this special meeting of the Kent County Board of Commissioners to order on August 4th. I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Commissioners Bujak.
Present.
Morales.
Present.
Pakla.
Here.
Minority Vice Chair Faber. Here. Commissioners Womack.
Here.
LeGrand. Oliver King. Hennessy. McLeod. Sparks. Vice Chair Teal. Commissioners Halsted. Coleman. Burrell. Ponstein. Steck. Hildenbrand. DeBoer. Merchant. Morse. Chair Green. Mr. Chair, you have 16 members present, 5 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will move to agenda item number 3, which is the invocation, and I will call on Commissioner Morales.
Good morning, everybody. So last time I gave an invocation, I talked about love, which is one of my, guiding life principles. And today I want to offer you a reflection of truth. A recent conversation with an esteemed colleague and friend on a variety of themes led me down a rabbit hole as I reflected on our parting topic, truth. Interestingly, although there's a generally agreed upon definition of truth, there's actually many types of truths, which I found this very intriguing. Before I get ahead of myself, I'll start off with a definition. There's a general consensus that the truth reflects the facts of reality. The Encyclopedia Britannica really gets into the nitty-gritty and described it as thus. Truth in metaphysics and the philosophy of language, the property of sentences, assertions, beliefs, thoughts, or propositions that are said in ordinary discourse to agree with the facts or to state what is the case. If we move forward with this idea, in ancient Greece, Plato wrote many theories about truths. One fundamental theory that was based on the idea of dualism, that reality could be divided into 2 parts. Number 1, that of the sensible world, which is the one we experience with our senses and through time. And because of time, change is constant and fleeting. The second part is that of the intelligible world, what Plato describes as a realm of forms. I won't take you down the entire rabbit hole because it is kind of a lot, and I highly recommend you look into it yourself. But it is based on It's based on a set of ideals that range from foundational ideas like mathematics, shapes, things that are unchanging truths, to moral and even aesthetic ideals such as justice, symmetry, or truth. A couple of centuries later, various biblical authors wrote about truth at length. In actuality, there's actually less than 3 out of the 66 books in the King James Version of the Bible omit its mention. And if you look up verses about truth, there's hundreds of them, possibly even thousands. I didn't read them all, so I can't tell you which. One of my favorites out of the hundreds written on this topic is in 1 John 3:18. Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. Even later in time, Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, also philosophized about the practicalities of using the ideal of truth as a tool in cultivating a personal character of integrity. And so with that, I will leave you with this offering of Marcus's wise words. Although, again, I hope you continue your own reflections on truth and how it shows up in your life. Live out your life in truth and justice, tolerant of those who are neither true nor just. Thank you for reflecting with me, and now we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Morales. We will move on to agenda item number 5, public comment related to agenda action items. Per the board rules, we're going to have up to 2 minutes of public comment this morning. We have submitted cards to the clerk. And I'd ask Madam Clerk to please welcome our first person for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and please forgive me if I butcher your names. Joshua Ferguson, and on deck we have Kim Gates.
Good morning. My name is Josh Ferguson. I'm in the Ward 2 of Grand Rapids. I'm represented, or not, by Melissa Grand, who this board knew could not make it to this meeting. This was a hastily arranged partisan power grab, again, as we see from this Republican DeVos-backed board. Once again, this is what we see today on item 7A is an attempt to smoothly and concisely hand over as much budgetary power to the next Republican sheriff. This is, someone looked at the books and saw, oh, we have an outgoing sheriff, we have the opportunity to get the next person nicely settled in, but we don't want that person to have to deal with a tax increase. So we move the tax increase up 2 years before anyone has to deal with it. In return, there is going to be many arguments made today that, oh, this is not as bad as it could be, because the sheriff actually called for a 1.2 mil increase rather than the 0.98 that's the proposal for you today. This is, again, partisan and a power grab before you all. I'm asking you all to please grapple with the reality that they rushed this decision. They rushed this process because they knew the moment that this would come before a larger discussion, it would not be quite so neat and tidy for the powers that be in this county. So please reject this proposal today. If you do not reject it today, it will be rejected November 3rd. By the way, please vote today. Today is primary day by 8 o'clock.
Next up, we have Kim Gates, and on deck we have Jeannie Hosey.
Good morning. I'm speaking to the Corrections and Detention millage. The millage subcommittee minutes show no real discussion of this proposal. There was no formal presentation at the work session. At the special meeting scheduled today for 8 a.m. on election morning, this leaves residents with almost no time to learn what's being considered. Taken together, this looks like speed has come before transparency, public input, and normal procedures. I've heard the argument that the commissioner's job is just to put the question on the ballot and let voters decide. But voters deserve more than that. They deserve to know this board actually vetted the proposal and heard from the people most affected. This means talking to the community partners, local municipalities, and other stakeholders, and letting their input actually shape the plan. A 20-year tax increase deserves real, transparent process. Based on what I've seen, this isn't ready for the November ballot. I'm asking the board to delay the vote, target a future election, and use that time for real public engagement, clear information, and a process that people can trust. Today's question isn't just whether voters should weigh in, it's whether a 20-year tax increase has earned the public's trust through how it was developed, and I don't think that we're there yet. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jeannie Hosey, and on deck, Dottie Clune.
Good morning, I'm Jeannie Hosey. I live in East Grand Rapids, and I don't have in-depth comments on this proposal, but I do understand that there's been a very truncated due process in putting this proposal together, and I'm really kind of surprised because this commission is usually very careful about raising taxes and about any proposal you put before the public, and I would ask you to delay this proposal and do your due process. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dottie Clune, and on deck, Eric Howard.
Good morning. My name is Dottie Clune. I live in the 2nd Ward of Grand Rapids. And I'm here today because I am deeply concerned about the truncated process that was used to bring this matter before the commission today, to try to move forward with a 20-year proposal that would increase taxes by $9 million a year. And to do that with this very short notice, and what is really a slap in the face of the residents of Kent County, is that you put this meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning on Election Day. So could you make a better effort to tell the voters of this community how little you care about them? This is a shameful action on the part of the Republican leadership of this commission, and I hope you will seriously consider voting no on this matter. Thank you.
Next up, we have Eric Howard, and on deck, Wesley Wilson.
All right, hello, Commission. My name is Eric Howard. I'm born and raised right here in Kent County. Like Josh, who spoke before me, I'm traditionally represented by Commissioner LeGrand, but clearly lacking in that representation today. I want to just take a moment to express what can only be described as shame towards the leadership I see sitting before me. In just under 2 years, my tax dollars that don't just fund your salaries, but also the services and programs that my neighbors and I depend on, have been wasted on bombs and foreign wars, fraudulently pledged by the President of the United States to fund an anti-weaponization fund to pay off insurrectionists, and finally abused to fund salaries for unqualified murderers who roam our streets and kidnap our brothers and sisters every day. All this while food assistance benefits were denied to hungry families as a political bargaining chip to reopen the federal government. Planned Parenthood locations are closing across Michigan after devastating funding cuts. Education is being defunded across the nation and replaced with private schools. I mean, childcare is unaffordable. Parents are being plunged into poverty. I'm living in what I think is my 6th or 7th apartment at this point, with home ownership completely out of sight. I have lived in at least 5 of your districts. And now today, you guys are asking me to fork over more of my tax dollars to fund none of what I just listed, but rather our jail and our sheriff. I get why you're doing this. This is a Hail Mary attempt to try to get the green light from, Republicans fleeing to the polls to try to save their paramilitary immigration policy, or force through our own version of the SAVE Act, which is on the ballot this year, or provide a nice little signing on bonus to whatever sheriff that you guys decide to hire. Probably one that's picked by the DeVos back, Sheriffs for Trump program. I wish I could stand here today and say any of what I'm saying will actually matter. But I'm asking the commission to think about their small government ideals and realize that you don't just get to force through tax increases that you hope will pass because of the extremism fermenting on your side. I want to just end with this. My grandfather was a builder. He built libraries, restaurants, country clubs, you name it. And he also built the county jail. He worked every day of his life, and when I told him you were doing this, he said that our jails were not built for ICE to use, but rather to lock up American criminals. We will hold you accountable for the decisions you've made today.
Next up, we have Wesley Wilson, and on deck, Bill Knapp.
Hello, my name is Wesley Wilson. Like some of the previous people, my commissioner, District 14, is not able to be here. As all of you knew, they, along with others, were going to be on a scheduled vacation, and she's currently gone, enjoying time with her grandkids. We've pushed this through where we have an additional week to already do this. This commission has always been about fiscal responsibility. Where is that when we're doing this right now, when we have these pre-planned vacations for several commissioners who obviously aren't here? We know right now over half of the general fund is being used to subsidize the sheriff's office. We're seeing that happen. We're seeing all of our money being spent there. And a lot of folks rightfully are asking, what are we getting out of this? And when you do a process like this, when you push something through and people are already wondering, if half of our general fund is going to this, what are we getting? And when you do a process that looks like this and looks optically this bad, a lot of folks are going to rightfully think, why should I trust this commission? Why should I trust this leadership? Why should I put another millage forward for my tax dollars? And this just doesn't have implications for this millage. This is any millage the city does, whether it's the museum millage, anything like that. Every time you put forward a millage, it is saying, hello, taxpayers, I hope you can trust us that we're going to spend your dollars well and that this tax increase is important. And so when you do something like this that feels very short-sighted, I think it undermines the other millage you guys have coming up. And I think all future millages, which I agree for a lot of them, they are very necessary. That's how, because of our tax base, how that works. You have to have millages to pay for things. And so when you do things like this, there's a lot of voters in this county who are going to say, wow, They seem to just be rushing things through. Maybe they don't have the budget in line, whatever it may be, correct or incorrect. You completely undermine that trust when you do things like that. And you have a lot of folks like me who aren't represented because they were told, commissioners were told this was gonna be a finance committee today. There wasn't gonna be a meeting. And while this is legally permissible, you all know it's not right and it's rushed. Thank you.
Next up, we have Bill Knapp, and on deck, Janet Zahn.
Good morning. I'm Bill Knapp. I live in Kent County. My perspective on this is process and optics. From a layperson's view, like myself, I'm not a technical person about laws and policies. I come from a thinking person's view, a systems thinking view. And my questions are, which I think I share with others, is that has this followed the procedures that have been tried and true, that you've processed all these other decisions that you've made? Has the data been checked and checked again and again? Has it followed through with all the committees that it needs to go through? Has there been sufficient input for you to make informed decisions? Is there a strong basis for the urgency to move this up 2 years? If you're not comfortable with that, as many of us are not, and if these questions still remain, if you think citizens you represent are comfortable with these questions or not comfortable with these questions, take a pause. Do what's right for you. Do what's right for us. There's time. Go back to addressing these questions that have been raised. It's probably not a good idea to vote this through this morning. Thank you.
Next is Janet Zahn, and on deck is Sarah Woosley.
Good morning. My name's Janet Zahn, and I live in the First Ward of Grand Rapids, represented by Carol Hennessy, also among those who was not able to be here and participate in the vote today. So there's a representational issue, I think, that many of us feel is slanted against those commissioners who would have something to say about this vote. I believe the county should clearly explain why the timeline is so compressed. You're looking at 2 months of deliberation for a 20-year consequence. That feels unreasonable and has not been explained. What alternatives have been considered to this option? We haven't heard any of that either. How this additional revenue will be spent. We don't have faith in just handing money over without an explanation of how you're going to spend it with a certain amount of detail. And why the normal review process was bypassed. I think the process aspect of it is probably most disturbing to me because it sets precedent and it's following what happened with the zoo and museum millage process, where some committees were bypassed and input was not received and discussion did not happen. So we have a process that's established for a reason, and I think it should be followed. I am here today to ask you to delay this vote and to go through the regular, official, and appropriate process to make sure that any millage that is asked for is the correct one and one that people of our community will feel able to trust you with. There's one more thing I would like to say, which is that safety comes in many forms, and it's not just about policing. We could spend the money differently.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Sarah Woolsey, and on deck, Jim Quinlan.
Good morning. As a homeowner in Grand Rapids, I am proud to live in Kent County, and I'm proud to contribute to the services and programs in our community. I would be happy to pay more of my property taxes to support important projects, like, for example, increasing the early childhood education funding, which many members of this board voted down because you did not want to increase taxes, and you cited there was not enough information to make that decision. And yet you're proposing to increase this millage by the same amount that early childhood one was failed, with less consideration, less information. You're ready to force through a proposal that has not been fully considered, and I echo the concerns of all of the commenters before me about this rushed process. Voters deserve thoughtful consideration and transparency from our elected officials. That is not what we are seeing today. I just want to say happy Election Day, and voters will remember this in 2 years.
Next up, we have Jim Quinlan.
Good morning. I'm Jim Quinlan. I live in East Grand Rapids. We're trying to make this quick. I recently moved to East Grand Rapids in my retirement from the Detroit metro area. I'm afraid this might be recorded, but I will say the West is the best, and please not spread that to my friends on the east side of the state. During my career, I had the opportunity to run 3 businesses, and a lot of fiscal decisions to be made, of course, in those situations. And if I would have ever had a CFO of mine come up and say to me, Jim, we have to make a decision, and I want you to put it before the board, which I would take as the public. I want you to put this before the board, but you need to make a decision now whether you're going to put it before the board. I would say to him or her, I don't have enough information to make this decision. And I'm not going to put myself in that position where I'm going to stand before the board without enough information to say, let me tell you why I'm putting this in front of you. So it seems to me that this process is a bit rushed, and I would ask you to exercise that fiscal responsibility to have enough decision before you make a decision. That's only the wise thing to do. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, that is all the cards we have.
Is there anybody else who wishes to make public comment this morning? Please come right ahead.
I just want to echo, I'm Kim, Ward 3. I want to echo all of my neighbors and friends' sentiments, and I also want to say that I want us to stop cooperating right now, not in the future. I want us to stop cooperating right now with ICE, period.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good morning.
My name is Ted Jow. I live in the 3rd Ward, lifelong resident of Kenton County. I feel like I'm echoing what everyone is saying. I'm not going to ask people to raise their hand if they are on the other side of this proposal, but I want to echo the idea that for those of you who are bringing this forward, who believe in due process, who believe in due diligence, who believe in a conservative form of government, that this is not that. I'm asking you to give this proposal the time it deserves, the due diligence that it deserves. The standing rules are the due process that this deserves, and those are the things that we, the voters, we, the taxpayers, deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Sini Gant Jordan. I am a 3rd Ward resident. I am a 1st Ward resident. I'm a 1st Ward business owner of 28 years. I serve on many boards in this city for free. You all on this board get paid. I make my decisions based on truth. I base my decisions based on research when it comes to decisions for our board, and I'm asking you all to do the same and include community voice, include the people who pay taxes. We have a right to understand what's going on here. What is happening now is not okay. This millage is not good for any of us right now. We need to understand how these dollars plan on being spent. My son, I have a son in the county jail right now, and I can tell you many things that those dollars that they already have are not doing. I can also tell you what the policing in the community has done to my family with no legs to stand on behind it. Trust and believe. We need to better understand what these dollars will do for our community. And for us not to understand is a problem. I stand here with this hat on, red, white, and blue, because my grandfather fought for this country and the right for me to use my voice and to say what needs to be said and to have a choice when I vote. I can't vote on any of these things. If you all push this through today, we're going to have a problem. 20 years, you know what those dollars could do for the people in our community? I have a huge problem with this, and I'm speaking as a three-year resident here, I'm sorry, as a third-generation resident here. But I will also tell you, I speak for many of my community members. This is not okay, and I stand behind everything that has been shared here already this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Please come forward if you wish to make public comment. Good morning.
Hi, thank you all for coming today. My name is Kyle. I'm with Ward 1. As some of my constituents echoed before, my Ward 1 representative is not here today. Please do not vote without my representation. For all of you that are voting and planning to vote, each and every one of you's vote will be remembered if you decide to go for or against this. I will be involved as a recent homeowner. You are voting to increase my property tax. I'm one of the lucky few that am able to buy a house, as I'm sure many of the people here are affected by this tax increase. You are forcefully choosing to tax me an additional amount, and I will remember that. For each and every one of you, I echo my constituents' comments, and I want you to remember that younger people like me will be in here and involved in politics longer than you will be at this office. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make public comment this morning? Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Charlie Snedeker, Kent County resident. I just want to echo what everyone has told you today. I find it somewhat not a shock, but not one person got up here today and said, let's do this. We're here because we are concerned with many things, and one of the things we're concerned with is our tax situation. You want to increase our property tax for this particular millage by, I believe it's 32%, without due consideration. I think that what's needed here, as was said earlier, is you people need to look at what's happening. You need to study the situation. You need to do the job of being oversight, and you need to do the job of being accountable to us. Please vote no on this. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Skylar Buck, and I'm a homeowner in Garfield Park. I was born and raised in Caledonia. I was thinking about what Ms. Morales was saying this morning about truth. And I think a word that goes along with truth is integrity. And this process is not what leaders do when they're acting with integrity. As a young voter, I think what people like me are sick of is not any other divide, but at the core, it's about people not acting with integrity. This process is rushed. I don't want my property taxes going to this without due consideration. I think it's sickening that we said no to a child care tax, but yes to this tax for jails. I think about Ms. Morales' words about from the Bible. I wonder what God we pray to that says no to children, but yes to jails. I wonder also how fortunate I am to be able to take time off work this morning to come and speak. How many of my neighbors, community members don't have the luxury and aren't being represented right now? I think you ought to be ashamed of yourselves for putting us forward in this process. And as a voter, this is something I'm going to remember every day at the ballot box. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to make public comment this morning? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Evan Heil. I'm a resident of Kentwood. I'd like to speak to some of the factual inaccuracies in the presentation given by the Sheriff's Office. The Kent County jail population has been declining, and all projections are based on increasing jail populations over the next 20 years. That is together with a decline in violent crime and nonviolent crime rates since 2022, and we are at historically low crime levels for this millennium in the county. If the prison system needs more funding, the county should probably be increasing the cost to book arrested people. A Just GR analysis found that frivolous detentions by the GRPD for misdemeanor nonviolent crimes represented more than $2 million in detention costs in 2024. We should be putting pressure on the city of Grand Rapids to pay its fair share for bad policy, not passing it on to property taxpayers in Lowell and Byron Center. Bookings are up, but violent crimes are again down. I find it abhorrent that we can find money for jails and detention, but we cannot find money for housing, for better economic development in the rural and the urban areas of this county, nor for medical practices that can serve the people and prevent different forms of mental health and other issues that are spoken to in the sheriff's own PowerPoint. The claim is made that the cost increases stem from detaining and holding more mentally ill individuals with greater behavioral difficulties. We should be investing in alternative pathways to treatment, not more jails. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make public comment this morning? I see none. Thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda item number 6, which is the consent agenda. I will call on Commissioner Morales.
I move the consent agenda for today. Do I have to go one by one?
Pardon me?
Do I go one by one, or do I just say consent agenda? Sorry,
You did
numbers.
great. That was perfect.
Thanks.
Moved by Morales, supported by Vice Chair Teal. Questions, comments, or discussion on the consent agenda? I see none. This is a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to adopt the consent agenda, Commissioners Bujak.
Yes.
Morales. Pakla. Minority Vice Chair Faber. Commissioners Womack.
Yes.
LeGrand. Oliver King. Hennessy. McLeod. Sparks. Vice Chair Teal. Commissioners Halsted. Coleman. Burl.
Yes.
Ponstein. Steck. Hildenbrand.
Yes.
DeBoer. Merchant. Morse.
Yes.
Chair Green.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 16 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. The consent agenda is adopted.
Thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 7, resolutions. I'll call on Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you, Chair Green. I'd like to move Resolution 70 of today's date, corrections and detention millage ballot language.
Thank you. Is there support? Supported by Vice Chair Teal. I think I will hand this off to Administrator Vandenberg to kind of do the just action request. And then we can continue on discussion from there.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Action requested. Approve the language to be placed on the November 3, 2026 general election ballot for Kent County residents asking whether the county should renew and increase the Kent County corrections and detention millage for the years 2026 through 2045. Recommend to the Kent County Board of Commissioners that it transmit the ballot language to the Kent County Clerk for placement on the November 3 ballot. Summary. The corrections and detention millage was first approved by Kent County voters in 1990 for a period of 20 years and was renewed in the general election in 2008 at a rate of 0.84 mils. Consistent with the Headley Amendment, that original rate has been rolled back to the current rate of 0.7332 mils. The 2008 renewal expires at the end of 2029. Because the millage funding is essential to the Kent County Sheriff's constitutional obligations, the sheriff has requested to renew the funding in 2026 rather than delay renewal until the end of the current millage authorization. After thorough review of current and future costs, the Corrections and Detention Millage Review Committee has recommended to the Board of Commissioners that the current millage be renewed and increased by 0.468 mils. The Millage Review Committee has proposed the following language for approval and transmittal to the Kent County Clerk for placement on the November 3 general election ballot. Shall Kent County levy 0.98 mil, which is 98 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, on the taxable value of all real and personal property subject to taxation for the period 2026 through 2045 inclusive, to expand, remodel, equip, operate, maintain, and defray debt service for Kent County Correction and Detention Facilities. This millage is a renewal of the previously authorized millage, which expires following the 2029 levy, as well as the authorization to increase the existing millage by 0.2468 mil, which is 24.68 cents per 1,000 of taxable value. The amount raised by the proposed levy in the first calendar year is estimated at $37,326,699. To the extent permitted by law, a portion of the revenues from this millage will be captured by local authorities for authorized purposes. The total amount of captured tax increment revenues from such millage in the first calendar year of the levy is estimated at $1,497,200 $204.07. The authorities in Kent County capturing a portion of the revenues from this levy, including the following: the downtown development authorities for the cities of Cedar Springs, Granville, Lowell, Rockford, Walker, the Charter Township of Cascade, and the townships of Bound, Sparta, and Tyrone, the Brownfield redevelopment authorities of Grand Rapids, Granville, Kentwood, Walker, and Wyoming, and the Monroe North Tax Increment Financing Authority of the City of Grand Rapids, Local Development Finance Authority of the City of Grand Rapids, and the Corridor Improvement Authority of the City of Grand Rapids.
Does that cover it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Al, I appreciate it. All right, you guys have the, that's the action request. We have the packet. We've got folks here who are available to answer questions that you may have for deliberation, but I'll open it up for questions, comments, discussion from the board. Commissioner DeBoer.
Thank you, Chair. My understanding is that this was an original request from the Sheriff's Department at 1.2 mills, and maybe our fiscal services can take us through this, but what is the difference between the 0.98 and when did we receive that request? And can you kind of walk us through really what that means for dollars, the difference between the 1.2 and 0.98 and how we arrived at the 0.98?
The 0.98, I will say, that was from discussion with the committee and with the Sheriff's Department. I don't know if Jeff is able or willing to, or if Administrator Vandenberg has the numbers too, but kind of walk through the difference in those figures, but that'd be great. Morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Chair. Yeah, so quickly, if we did the increase in 2027, we're estimating the tax revenue would be about 3 million under a 0.98 and 45.7 million under a 1.2 versus 26.6 million today.
So what is the difference, if I may, Chair, what's the difference in yearly tax for the, like, for a property tax that it would be between the?
Roughly $8 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's my understanding that the original request was 1.2 and we arrived at the 0.98 of $8 million less.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Pakla.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question and then I think some comments. The question is, this is the first millage language I've seen that is part of a renewal and an increase. And so I'm just curious, maybe from corporate counsel's perspective, when we have a situation like this where the number that's actually going to appear on property tax listings is higher than the number that's there, is it typical to say this is a renewal of the existing and an addition? Or I guess I'm looking at that classification of this being a renewal versus the fact that the number is higher, so therefore it's actually an increase.
Yeah, this is, the typical method of handling this statewide is if it is a renewal, but there is also an increase, you have to disclose the fact that there is an increase to the millage rate, but you can quantify it as a renewal since it is a reauthorization of an already existing millage.
And so then, is it typical for us to call out the fact that it is a reauthorization of an existing millage? Is that typical MO, or does it sort of depend on municipality?
In my experience, it's very typical for it to be called a renewal and increase, yes.
Okay. All right.
Others? Commissioner Halstead.
I have one, perhaps under Sheriff Muir. You can answer. I think you touched on some of it in some of the different meetings you had with all the commissioners, but I'm just wondering, if the millage doesn't get renewed, and I think it's roughly 28 point something million, right, that gets put back into our general fund, what does that actually mean for the sheriff's office? And what does that mean? So I'm from Gaines Township on the south end, like, what does that mean for me? Because if it is not the jail, like, what does that do with road patrol, investigations, records, that the new crime center that we have? How does overall picture look?
Yeah, the millage is kind of tied to the public safety system as a whole throughout Kent County. The original millage in 1990 allowed all the municipalities to have their own individual lockup facilities where they held pre-arraignment detainees in their facility. It consolidated it and shifted that responsibility to the Kent County Sheriff's Office. So now anytime someone's arrested on a state or local charge, they're brought directly to the Sheriff's Office, not back to Grand Rapids PD, Kentwood, Walker, Wyoming, Sparta, who all are required to have their own lockups. So what we would see is that a lot of that responsibility would shift back onto the municipalities. And in addition to that, again, it's up to the board to decide where the budgetary dollars would come from. But if the sheriff's office was not to receive the same general fund dollar support, there would be a reduction, a cascading effect across all services provided by the Kent County Sheriff's Office, including our enforcement details as well, too, all supporting investigations, court security. I mean, it's truly a cascading effect on the criminal justice system countywide, not just for the sheriff's office.
So what does that look like finance-wise for, say, like the city of Kentwood or city of Wyoming with what you just said? Are they equipped to do that?
Again, I can't speak for all these individual municipalities. There would have to be some due diligence and some research to decide which is the best method to keep people that they arrest for their state and local charges at their facility. I'm assuming we would have to come up with some type of contractual arrangement to house those people at our facility until they could come up either with their own housing facilities or find a way to budget for the costs and liability that would be associated with starting their own lockups back up. But these are a lot of hypotheticals as to the solution, but the reality is all these municipalities rely on the sheriff's office for a detention center countywide.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Morse.
Thank you, Chair. Under Sheriff Muir, if you don't mind, I was able to take part in one of the sessions that you had at the jail, and it was very informative. I wasn't aware of, so kind of a comment, I guess, Chair, if that's okay, on the extreme resources, and I was really glad to see that we were increasing, but they were federally mandated. That was news to me. I didn't realize this was a new standard. I guess maybe you could speak just a quick moment to that on the mental health services and that type of thing. It isn't something like all of the costs that are increasing. It's not necessarily, there's two parts to it, right? It's the physical, but then it's also the operational part of it that is the increasing cost on this.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot intertwined into what this millage request would do, but I can kind of summarize with the fact that our facility has decades of buildings throughout there. We have some from the 50s, 70s, 90s, and the early 2000s. And when those facilities were built, none of them were built with today's standard of medical care, mental health, substance use disorder treatment. And what we're looking for is an expansion of our facilities to better treat the people that are in custody and care and provide those services for them. So this isn't increasing our bed space. This is really providing better treatment facilities for those that are in custody and care upon their reentry back into the community. So it is attached just to the fact that there are new federal court rulings that require us to provide mental health, substance use disorder treatment. And our facilities was not built or designed for that because it wasn't something that was required when our facilities were first constructed.
Thank you.
Pardon me, we got discussion of the board. We cannot have comments from the public at this time. Thank you. I don't have anybody in the queue. Is there anybody else who wishes to make discussion today? Yes, Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. When it comes to any potential for a request of an additional tax burden on the community, that always makes me extremely cautious because I know how impactful that is on many families. Even if the amounts are small, there's lots of family budgets that are impacted even by small amounts, and so I'm heartened to hear lots of comments today just with that concern about tax increases. It's good to know that there's lots in the community that are equally cautious when something like this arises. I do think there may be some misinformation in the community around some of the process issues, and so I do want to speak to that, just having served here for many years and under, I think, 5 different chairs at this point. Like the sometimes the millage requests, go through our subcommittees. Sometimes the millage requests get a dedicated committee, which in this case was how this operated. And that's completely normal, and I think I just want to say my appreciation to the chair and the sheriff and undersheriff for good communication to all of us over a number of months, the open work sessions and all the steps involved in getting to this point of consideration. I do also think it's important that we're approaching this in a way that gives the voters the chance to consider and decide for themselves on this topic. I do not think that we should just raise people's taxes generally without them being involved in the process. And so I appreciate that this has continued the path through a millage process, and will give the voters from today, if this moves forward, until November to consider the details and look at those details. I think one of the aspects of that consideration that I would, I guess, two things. One is just having dealt with some constituents over the years who've had, in one case, a mother whose son was in the county jail and had some deep concerns about some unique medical issues. And I just want to say again, the sheriff in that instance was extremely responsive, was able to connect the right people to ensure that the medical care was being properly administered for that individual. And I do think that that's important, and it's one aspect of this, as we've studied the details of the amount of funding that this percentage of the costs, both capital and operating, that this used to cover, and now over the decades, that percentage, that's covered by this millage has shrunk substantially. And even with the proposal today, doesn't get back to the percentage of cost coverage that we had, a few decades ago when this began. But I do think one of those major increased costs, unfortunately, is in respect to the medical care needs and just the security aspects around, ensuring that medical care is provided. But I think that is a justification, an important justification for ensuring that we can cover those operating costs. And also, secondly, on the capital cost side, maybe the administrator or someone, Mr. Chair, could speak to what we're going to address coming up policy-wise in the Finance Committee, because I do think that ensuring that we, if the voters agree with my perspective on why this is important to ensure we're properly funding these responsibilities in our community, that the voters, if they do that they can be ensured by our policy that we're dedicating these funds to the operating expenses that are detailed and have been detailed by the sheriff and her office, but also the capital. And so I don't know if someone could speak quickly to that and just the proposed policy change for capital expenditures.
Yeah, I think Administrator Vandenberg can speak to what we're considering at the finance meeting following this meeting.
Yes, the Board of Commissioners has a longstanding policy of putting 0.2 of a mill aside for capital purposes. And the proposal would be to put 0.3 aside, which is a significant increase, so that the money is dedicated towards maintaining, improving, paying for the capital assets of the county and the jail.
And that would be contingent upon the passage of the
millage in
in
November,
November,
yes.
if we moved it forward to voters for consideration today. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Packel for a second.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I appreciate everybody coming here and voicing their opinions, and it really makes me reflect on what we as a county stand for, what we invest in, and really importantly, how we communicate with our communities to ensure that the work that we do up here is really well known, it's really well heard, and it's transparent. And I'm reflective of the need in our community. We recognize through the work that we've seen at the jail that there is a need for investment in the facility. And although I can imagine lots of other places for us to invest that would have a lasting impact on our community, I recognize that we have to provide safety and physical and mental well-being and accessible resources for the folks that both work at and are housed at that facility. So I'm not here today to say that we don't need to invest in the facility. But what I am here is to be reminded of the fact, as Commissioner Kallman alluded to, that every dollar that we spend up here on this dais, every budgetary number that we put together comes out of someone's pocket. It comes from the people that are sitting out here in the audience. It comes from us up here. It comes from the people of Kent County. And that was true earlier this year when we sent the zoo and the museum millage to the ballot in November. And it was true 2.5 years ago when we sent the early childhood millage to the voters then. And so when I'm considering this, I'm not just considering whether the facility needs investment, but I'm also considering, as we have in the past, and as we have shown that we have done so well in the past, whether we've done our due diligence to make sure that we've done this process through our agreed upon processes, and that we've turned over every rock that we can to make sure that asking our taxpayers for $1 more, or in this case, $9 million more, is justified by the work that we have done up here and in the committees that we set. And that's a big ask, because $9 million is not a small amount for us to ask our community for. In my estimation, we haven't done all of the due diligence. The review was initially requested on May 5th. The committee was formed on May 21st, and the first meeting of the committee was on June 9th. The scope of that committee included a public engagement and shareholder input section. Number 4 in the scope of duties of that committee was public engagement and shareholder input. And from what I have seen, from what we have in our packet today, from what I've heard from the millage review committee members, there was no public engagement and no shareholder input that was shared with that committee. Now, it's entirely possible that there was public engagement and shareholder impact studies that were done, but they were not shared with that committee, and they are not in front of us today. And so when the committee concluded its work on July 23rd, that work did not include an entire section of the scope of its work. And so that means that when I connected with elected officials in the municipalities that I represent on July 23rd, nobody had heard of this. Nobody had been contacted, nobody had been asked about their impressions of this. And so we...
Pardon me, Commissioner, we need to have discussion up here and not interaction with the attendees. Thank you very much. Please continue, Commissioner Pack.
So we as a board have no idea how this millage is going to be perceived by the community or how it might impact the rest of the work that we're doing. And we found it just months ago, we found it so critical to the operations and the fiscal responsibility of this county that we changed the ratio of dollars that we are allocating in the zoo and museum millage. But we have no research and no understanding into whether that millage that we know is critical to the operations of our county is going to be impacted by a tax increase on the November ballot. So for me, this process feels rushed. And this shouldn't feel rushed. Millages should be intentionally slow because we're asking our taxpayers to give us dollars that they work very hard for. And that is reflected in our standing rules. Both the Policy and Operations Committee and the Finance and Infrastructure Committee have stated responsibilities that say that they have a role to play in the millage process. And neither was included in that process. And I was on the Standing Rules Committee as we rewrote that this year. And we carefully established the list of responsibilities that is delegated to each of those committees. And if it was the intent that some millages were to go to those committees and other millages were not, we should have spelled that out very clearly in the standing rules. So should we continue to go along this process of sometimes going to those committees and sometimes not? I highly encourage us to review those standing rules and to adjust the responsibilities of those committees. So for me, I'm looking at how to evaluate this process. I'm looking at the fact that, in my estimation, we didn't follow our standing rules guidelines. In my estimation, I'm not finding it a transparent process. In my estimation, it's moving extraordinarily fast. Just to put some numbers to the speed, it was 91 days from the initial request until today. It was 68 days from the committee's creation until today. And it was 56 days from the first meeting until today. And when you compare it to the last two millages that we did, it was over 200 days of deliberation for the Zune Museum millage and over 300 days of review and deliberation for the early childhood millage. So that, to me, feels rushed. So where do I go from here as a commissioner that's trying to be fiscally responsible, but also really struggling with the process? I'm struggling a lot with the precedent that we are setting by moving this quickly. I'm struggling a lot with the precedent that we are setting to create excerpts and different pathways inside of our standing committees. And those are the roles and responsibilities that we as a board agreed were going to be played by our standing committees. And I'm really struggling to ask our constituents to pay more for a millage that when we didn't ask them 2 years ago to pay more for early childhood education. And that is something that has been shown time and time again to reduce the need for a correctional facility. And it's so important that we get this right because, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but every dollar that we are spending up here, every dollar that we are allocating for the mental health and the physical health of our corrections population is money that's not spent by our community on groceries. It's not spent on their housing. It's not spent on their increased gas costs. And so we have to get it right. So today, as I look at what we've been presented, I can't vote to send it to the ballot in November. And it's not because I don't think that the voters should have a say. And it's not because I don't think that these are additional dollars, but it's because I don't think that this is a finished product. I don't think that the committee completed its entire scope of work because we have an entire section of that scope of work which was not completed. There's a lot more that we have to do as a community and as a commission before we ask our taxpayers to give us more of their hard-earned dollars. So ultimately, if this does pass today, the voters will have an opportunity to weigh in on it. But I hope that we would consider not accepting the report from the subcommittee, sending it back so that they can continue to do that really important work of identifying the appropriate and lasting sources of investment for our community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will note, I gave Commissioner Pacla a lot of leeway. I gave Commissioner Coleman some leeway too on our 5-minute rule. So I'm being a little bit lenient, but I will sharpen up if we need to. Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair Green. I might also note a point of order. You allowed a commissioner to take a second bite before you allowed me my first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Emeritus. I appreciate that.
So I will assume that I'll have a second opportunity to kind of give you maybe some of my summary thoughts. But I did want to address and ask a question of confirmation on some of the procedural issues that have been circling around the consideration of this proposal. And I have a lot of respect for Commissioner Pacla and served on that Rules Committee with him. I think I've served on every Rules Committee since I started this commission back in 2014. So I'm very aware of what I believe have been consistently in our rules, our standing rules, with respect to the ability of the chair to take issues out of standing committees and directly to the Board of Commissioners. When I served as chair, I did that a number of times, and it was principally an assessment of whether or not the issue was so significant that there was little to be gained by pushing it through a standing committee and giving the commissioners in the standing committee perhaps a presumptive 2 bites of the apple when it was going to be fully vetted at the full board. I guess I'm looking for clarification and confirmation that that's the rule that the chair used in submitting this directly to the full board.
I will direct that to Corporate Counsel. Brian.
Yes, Commissioner, I believe it is, and specifically, it's Rule 1.3J, which speaks directly to the authority of the chair to move a millage request into a special committee.
And I guess I'm a little sensitive because I hear members of the public and my colleagues suggesting that we're somehow bastardizing these rules by using the very process that was built into the rules for this very kind of purpose. That is, where you have an issue that is of a compelling public interest to the entire members, all of them are going to have an equal opportunity to vet it. So I guess I take issue with the suggestion that this is an avoidance of our rules, this is a stepping on the rules, and with that confirmation would suggest that it is in fact exactly what we discussed in Standing Rule Committee, that this right, this option should remain with the chair for this very purpose. So I have more comments, and I'm sure that you'll give me a second shot at the apple. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Steck. Commissioner Womack.
Yes, I was going to ask, is this going to be a roll call vote, or will it take a request for a roll call vote?
It is required by the rules to be a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you. I just would like to thank everybody for coming out for public comment, letting us know that they feel that this should have been presented to the public. I was reported to by a neighborhood association that the sheriff department did come into our district and have some discussion about the millage. But hearing so many people from the public, I would have to say that I will probably be following the party line today and voting no on this. At the same time, I would still like to build up the morale of our law enforcement when we talk about some of the things like the mental health. I had a chance to tour the jail, and after being in that jail before, sometime in the 80s, and seeing people walk around with half of us in our underwear and other nude because the air conditionings had broke. I'm very happy to see some of the things that have been advanced in that jail, and would like to just say that this is not only going to be about law enforcement, this is going to be about actually the care of the people that are in a city within a city, is what some of us in our neighborhood call that. I never agreed with the Riley Doggett situation. I still want to send my condolences out to Becky Wilbert. But there's other things the sheriff's done that saved lives. A person who was stabbed in a prison, and nobody in Grand Rapids could get in contact with that prison or the warden as they were bleeding out. And the sheriff department did call, and that person, I got to see that person who was stabbed yesterday 21 times in jail. He came out to a community conversation, this young man. So just still want to let the sheriff department know that there's some technicalities that'll be having me vote no today, but we still do honor the people that are in those uniforms doing your job. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair Green. As I've stated before with these millage questions, I really struggle with these because property taxes are difficult on our residents. We've heard from a couple today who are here in the audience who are homeowners. It's tough for new homeowners and for people living in their homes to manage the finances with high property taxes. So I struggle with these questions. But we live in a great county of Kent County, a very diverse county. I've spent the last few days at our youth fairs going on out in Lowell Township. I represent Lowell Township, the city of Lowell, Ada Township, and a little bit of Cascade, mostly rural and suburban. And none of my constituents were here this morning. I assume there's thousands at the Kent County Youth Fair, and I assume hundreds of them are there. And I'll talk to them this week about this question before us. And I assume a majority of them will say they don't like property taxes. It's a financial burden on them. But they also support our law enforcement. When I ran for office, I talked about supporting our law enforcement. Our residents, the residents I represent, count on the Kent County Sheriff's Office. When they have an emergency, when they feel endangered, they call 911, and they're served by the Kent County Sheriff's Office. And that's important to them, and they talked to me about that when I ran for office. And so, although this is difficult, I'll be supporting it to put it to the ballot in November. But something else was brought up about the capital improvements to the jail. I recently toured the jail as well, and I was actually shocked with the condition of certain areas of the jail. The Sheriff's Office is performing medical services and dental services in the middle of the jail that's renovated jail cells to provide these services. The conditions were deplorable. I was shocked. The one area of the food service is completely closed down. It's been condemned. They'd like to renovate it. The floor is leaking down in the locker room where the deputies change. So as part of this process, I've talked about the importance of investing capital to improve the jail as well, not only for the inmates, but the people who work there. So I know after this meeting, we're having a finance committee meeting, which I serve on, that will consider increasing the amount of money that we put in, property tax money that we put into mandated capital services, capital costs. And if this is passed today and put on the ballot in November and passed by the voters in November, I'll be pushing and making it a priority that we invest capital into the Sheriff's Office to improve the conditions of the jail. So with that, I'll be supporting it today, and then it's ultimately up to the voters to decide in November. Like I said, we have a diverse county. We have 660,000 people in this county. Some people are upset with law enforcement. Some people want to support law enforcement. Some people want, lower property taxes. So these are not easy decisions to make. So I appreciate everybody coming out, expressing their viewpoints. But today I'll be supporting it, and we'll see what the voters say in November. And then if it passes, I want to see improvements made for the conditions of the jail for the inmates and the workers who serve there every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Morales for a first.
Thank you, Chair Green. I have a question, possibly for Al, or maybe Brian. But would it be possible to maybe not put her, because I worry about voters getting like sticker shock at the polls and then this just kind of falling through. So would it be possible to just not put all of our eggs in one basket and have one millage set for a capital improvement that's maybe a shorter piece, and then something else, and then like the operations millage, and then folks can kind of vote a la carte?
I can start, and then Brian can. Obviously, at this point in time, to get something on the November ballot, if we did something different, there would have to be a very hasty attempt to redraft ballot language for that purpose.
Clearly.
Or you could take it to a special election next year or the following year. But basically, what we do know is that this millage does expire in 2 years. And there were other reasons 20 years ago when it was taken 2 years early as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burrow for a first.
Thank you, Chair Green. I guess a couple things. Deputy Muir is here as well. Maybe some questions he can answer as well. Maybe it's Al, maybe it's Jeff. So I think I'm only one of two commissioners that have had time to spend on a city council, otherwise known as the Metro 6, that has paid a jail tax, a per diem tax for 20, 30 years, 1990. Do you know how long that's been?
It was since the creation of the first millage in the 90s.
Okay. So, and that affects all the Metro 6, and I heard about that when I was on council for 11 years. I've heard about it for the 6 years I've been on here. So I can't believe it's just been 17 years that city managers and city council members have been complaining about a tax that was only one of 2 counties in the state that offered it. So under this current proposal, that jail tax or that per diem tax to our communities or our Metro 6 is going away. Is that correct?
Correct. There's about $1.2 million collected in per diem charges spread across all the municipalities. With the millage language, this would remove that per diem being charged to those municipalities.
And from what I've seen in the news lately, in the community that I live in, if this were not to pass, I think it was Commissioner Coleman, maybe it was Commissioner Steck, but they were asking about, how does this affect if it doesn't pass? And one of the things that it affects is, or maybe it was Commissioner Hall that mentioned it, I'm sorry, and that was, how does it affect our communities, our Metro 6? If we had to house these folks that are being arrested in our local communities, it would cost millions of dollars in each of those communities to upgrade their facilities to house those inmates or when people get arrested. Or they would have to probably pay a larger tax to the county to house those folks.
Correct. And I mean, it'd be difficult for them to budget. We could give them some data and stats for their typical arrests for those municipalities, how many people would potentially be in their custody and care at any given time, and they would have to scale a facility or contract services with somebody that could hold that population for them, including all of the medical, mental health services that are provided, as well as the court security transports that we do, and the liability that comes with housing that population when you're not necessarily prepared or ready for it. I mean, just training staff, onboarding personnel to do that. I mean, there is a difference between a law enforcement officer and a corrections officer. So they would have to build an infrastructure that doesn't exist today. I mean, this really, like I said, has a cascading effect not only on the Metro 6, but all the smaller municipalities that have their own police agencies outside of the Metro 6. There would be a revamping of what is being done today, and that tax burden would go back onto those municipalities.
And in some of those cases, let's look at a couple of our bigger communities. Let's look at Grand Rapids, look at Wyoming. I believe those facilities were probably built after 1990. I think it was a little later when Wyoming changed facilities and then when Grand Rapids changed their facilities. So again, you're talking millions of dollars, which is directly going to affect the number of officers, detectives, folks on the street taking care of our community. That's not a risk I'm willing to take. I think this is a great millage, not only for our community on keeping them safe. I also look at the inmates. I think there's two things that we've really done for folks that have been incarcerated or, I mean, you look at our public defender's office, they have better counsel than they ever have, and that was passed up here by this board. I also look at the safety of the inmates, the programs that currently are not being offered because we just don't have the space and the facilities to do that. Matter of fact, when our inmates need to go to one of our local hospitals, you're having two officers going. That's not just risking our community. I mean, transporting inmates to and from the jail is one of the riskiest things officers can do. And it's not just for the officers in our community, it's also for that inmate. And one of the jobs when they're in the Kent County Jail is rehabilitation. And there are programs that are not being offered that will be able to be offered and at least expanded on that will help those inmates get better, not be repeat offenders, because those numbers are absolutely huge. We don't want to see them back. Once they're in there, you don't want to see them again. That's one of your goals. Is that correct?
That's absolutely one of the goals. I mean, right now, we offer 20 programs in our facility, all focused on rehabilitation and reentry of our inmate population when they're released back to our community. And very much to your point about, why this was presented to the community 2 years early after the 1990 expiration, is the impact on not only just the Metro 6, but the community as a whole. If this weren't to pass, we need to make sure that everyone is prepared for how they're going to deal with the outcome if this isn't supported by our community. So we wanted to make sure that this was presented through the due diligence that we've done to make sure the community is aware of the effects of this millage not passing and being supported and how their communities would be affected by that, which, again, to your point, could have a detrimental effect on the number of law enforcement officers they have to keep their community safe.
I appreciate that. Again, this is, there's good reasons on both sides that are really important for this millage. And again, I don't want these inmates back, right? We want to rehabilitate them. We want to treat them with respect. We want to give them the facilities where they get better. And this helps with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to the voices that spoke here again as well, and I heard that somebody has family that's in our facility. And again, we keep our facility clean. We are an accredited agency. We do the best with what we have. But when you have a 75-year-old portion of a building, you have a 40 40-year-old part of the building that you're housing and providing medical care. It is not to what today's expectations and standards would be. And that's really what we will hope to do with this money, is to create a mental health treatment facility that is what you would expect to be treated for on the outside, and provide the programs and the support that we need to that inmate population to reduce recidivism and reenter them into the community as best they can be.
Right, thank you. Also, just one thing, we all gather information differently, and that's with people up here at this board, and there's people in the audience here today. For example, myself, if I had to take 6 months to 12 months in my business to make decisions, it wouldn't go really well for me. I need to make decisions now. I make them quick. Now, however, I'm in something with my mother, and she needs time. And I'm always on her, mother, we don't have that kind of time. We got to make this decision to move forward. It's not that she's right or wrong or someone's laughing out there, because that person probably takes things differently than I do. I can make quick decisions. That person probably needs more time, that disrespect that was out there. But I need not as much time, but that person might need more time. And I respect that everybody needs to get that differently. So don't take it as my yes vote being a rush decision. I just take things differently in my 30-plus years of owning my own business than somebody else does. And you know what? I'm not right or wrong, and neither are you, and I respect that out of anyone here. Thank you.
And I appreciate the Commissioner. I guess that goes to the point, if this is approved to go to the ballot, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in the Sheriff's Office, a lot of community connection, engagement, stakeholder conversations, and we intend to do that, whether it's a town hall, tours of the facility, whether or not we can get more information out there to get that community support by November. But we couldn't do that without the support of the Commissioners, and that's what we asked for.
Thank you. Chair, I'll take that as my first and second. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to just friendly reminder to commissioners, we're asking for respect and not engagement from them. We'd like to ask that commissioners not engage with members of the public. This is a discussion among us, so we appreciate that. Is there anybody else for first? I'll go Commissioner Bujak and then Commissioner Faber.
Thank you, Chair Green. I too toured the jail facility, and seeing is believing. The truth is out there, and the truth is that we need to invest in our jail system. Leaking floors and turning jail cells into dental offices is just not acceptable. So we really need to invest in the future, and I will be supportive of the work done by the subcommittee. I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Commissioner Faber.
Thank you, Chair. Just a little bit of a prepared statement. First, I want to thank everyone that showed up this morning on Election Day. We often think of voting as the way we engage with democracy, but showing up and holding your elected officials accountable is what shows a true thriving democracy. Because there's limited recordings, frankly, of our subcommittee, I did want to explain why I dissented, why I voted no for this to come out of subcommittee to this full board, and briefly explain why I won't be supporting this to go to the ballot in November. Simply put, I don't believe the subcommittee completed its work. I believe the report and recommendations were incomplete, and it wasn't ready to come here, and therefore not ready to go to the board, or to the voters. First, as Commissioner Pakla said, one of the charges of the committee is to evaluate public engagement and stakeholder input, and in my view, that work did not happen. The subcommittee did not receive meaningful community feedback from municipal partners who are directly impacted by this, local law enforcement, agency partners, community organizations, the general public. Aside from one public comment from former Commissioner Dave Bulkowski, who I informed of the work, we received no public comment through that entire process. So at best, that's a missed opportunity. At worst, it reflects a rushed process, and it shows a lack of demonstrated community support for this work. Second, another charge of the subcommittee was to evaluate the financial and taxpayer impact. Again, I don't believe we fully completed that responsibility. While we reviewed the impact of the 3 proposed millage rates on homeowner taxes, there was not a thorough analysis of how this increase would affect local municipalities or the broader tax base. Furthermore, the committee did not meaningfully explore alternative funding mechanisms for corrections. We were essentially presented with three choices, by and large maintaining the status quo, approving a large 1.2% increase, or approving what I think is still a significant increase of 33.6% to the 0.98. The pace of the process limited our ability to evaluate these other options besides a 20-year tax increase. Ideas such as shifting some of these operating costs from a special millage by increasing our general fund millage, or supporting operating expenses from the long-term bond could have affected taxpayers differently and deserved a more thorough review before placing this proposal on the ballot. Additionally, I think more thought and discussion with our municipal partners needed to go into this per diem discussion. To raise taxes on the residents of the city of Grand Rapids by nearly $2 million while reducing the city's per diem of $547,000 isn't as great a deal as it sounds. Finally, I also believe we should have more carefully considered the timing of the proposal. Moving the millage forward 2 years and implementing immediately has significant impact on our taxpayers now. I would have liked to have seen ballot language that shows this, if this increase comes into being, would have triggered as the old millage phased out. Again, we did not have the opportunity to discuss that in the subcommittee. Finally, in our most recent strategic plan, we stated as a board goal to expand transparency by improving public access to information about county decisions, actions, and outcomes. I don't believe we have meaningfully worked towards that goal through this process. It's been opaque. It's been difficult to get information. The information that's out there is difficult to find, and I hope we are striving to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for a first before I call on? Yes, Commissioner Sparks.
Chair, I too have to echo the sentiments of Minority Vice Chair Faber and Commissioner Pakla. When we look at our past and the things that we've done, what I've kind of noted is if we want a project to go forward, we show all the bad stuff, everything that's the bad. But when we want to show off how great everything is, we tell everybody and we show all the good until we need more money, and then we show the bad. So I'm going back to this major $27 million expansion and renovation project, along with a recent $500,000 upgrade to our female mental health unit. Nobody's mentioning that. That was not that long ago. The timeline that broke ground in May 2010 was dedicated in December 2012. We had new additions. We added a 3-story, 100,000 square foot addition, including featuring a classification unit, video courtrooms, holding tanks. We had a pod-style housing. We built new housing pods to keep inmates from moving with their movement to a minimum, reducing safety risk, and housing about another, total 1,275 beds. We added video visitation, installed with modern audiovisual systems. And then in 2024, we increased the female mental health unit upgrade. That was the $500,000 renovation that houses about 45 female inmates. I mean, I am all for making sure that our community is safe. I'm all for making sure that we have everything that we need for our law enforcement to be effective. What I'm not for is I'm not for not having transparency and accountability to the individuals that are going to pay for it. And at the end of the day, I think that the people want to know, they deserve to know, they need to know what we're doing up here. And how did we get to such a decision, a $9 million decision, in such a short period of time, whereas we've spent money in the past, and now we're wanting to spend more money, but they need to know why, and they need to know how. We've got all kinds of renovations and things going on around us. We've got a new amphitheater. We've got, Lord knows, all kinds of stuff going on. what are we going to do to slow this process so that we don't have the scrutiny, that we engage the individuals that deserve and that are going to pay? I know that you guys have the votes. I'm sure that people are saying that they have their minds made up and they've got the votes. But when this many individuals show up to a meeting, it should give us pause. Because we should already have pause within ourselves, because I believe everyone up here tries to operate in integrity. So we should already have pause within ourselves that something's happening a little too fast. And how do we slow that train down? And what is it going to hurt us to slow down so that we can have all the facts? Would be my question.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there anybody else for a first this morning before I call on Commissioner DeBoer for a second? I don't want to get out of order and have Commissioner Steck on my case again. Okay, Commissioner DeBoer.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm just going to share my thoughts on this all. I don't know how to not be direct and genuine, so that's what I'll do. I guess I'm a little bit frustrated with the process as well. Not for the speed at which we have arrived or deliberated. I'm content with my deliberation. I believe I participated in some of the work sessions. I think I feel well informed to make a decision today. What I am a little bit frustrated about is that this is obviously has been a gap in funding. And I would have liked to see our general fund, more of our general fund dollars being into the Sheriff's Department so that we didn't have to be where we are today from years prior. I have always been a strong advocate for our Sheriff's Department, for fully funding our Sheriff's Department. And it would have been wise for us to be a little bit more abreast of some of the funding inadequacies. So that's my frustration with this process. Saying that, though, there is obvious need, and we are at a point today where we do have to, in my opinion, have to make these changes. I am an advocate for protecting our property tax, our millage dollars. I have not voted for renewals nor increases, well, some increases and some renewals. But this is one I will support. And it's not because I disregard property tax or the burden on the taxpayer, but it's because I'm balancing between public safety and property and protecting property taxes. And I think my district, this is probably the one millage that they really do support. And for the overwhelming majority of my district, I believe, is the one way they would like to see their property taxes spent. So I will be supporting it. I do not like increasing a millage. I am uncomfortable with that a bit, but I still will be supporting it, as I do believe my district needs the opportunity, the whole county needs the opportunity to decide for themselves. So I'm supporting it to bring it to the voters, and it's the voters' decision. I do believe this is a need that we have for the county, and I do feel comfortable voting yes on this today and letting the voters decide. I'm not necessarily happy about where we are today and making this decision, but it is something that I can get behind, and I do believe there's a clear need, and the voters are the ones who are going to decide it for all of us.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else for question, comment, discussion? Do you want another bite at the apple, Commissioner? You're getting special treatment. Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay, you're up.
Well, is that special treatment or is that my second shot?
It's your, well, no, I don't normally seek people out, but you know, I'm seeking you out.
Fine. Thank you, Chair Green. So, my political philosophy generally disfavors additional millages, and prefer not to do that, but my political philosophy also says government serves an essential purpose in society, and one of the core purposes is to assure that we have security, safety, and meet our statutory and constitutional obligations. So in this case, we are dealing with a request having to fund really our detention facility and the operations in that detention facility. And as I've looked at the materials, I've looked at the statement of case, I have followed up with questions and inquiries. We've attended work sessions, we've had opportunities, and many of us have gone through the facility. I am convinced that what we are about to fund is an absolute necessity. If we are committed to justice in this society and in our community, I don't think we have an alternative but to take seriously the obligation to assure that when we lock somebody up in our jail, we are providing them all of the constitutional rights they're entitled to, that we are providing them all of the services that they need, and that includes health care, that includes mental health care, it includes substance use care, it requires education, support, and all of these other factors. And they sound like kind of goody two-shoe sort of things, and maybe somebody would say, throw them in the lockup and we'll get them out later. But these are essential services that we need to provide to the people that are in that facility. It's not ancillary, it's not fun stuff, it's not secondary, it's essential. So that's what we're dealing with here. So then the question is, are we ready to do this? Are we ready to consider it? Well, I know that the committee did its work, and I wasn't on that committee, and I appreciate the work that they did and the reports that they provided and the information, and then ultimately their final report. And in all due respect, I'm not about to simply take that at face value and say, thanks for the work, okay. And I don't think any commissioner should. I think the obligation of the commissioner is to take that and then do your own due diligence. And what your own due diligence requires ought to be whatever you need to do, ask the questions, do the research, do the walkthroughs, whatever you need to do to assure that you have satisfied your concerns, that your position actually on this proposal is based upon sound analysis. So and I hope that my partners and colleagues did the same thing. We asked the questions, we went through and did the analysis. And I consider, well, what are the options to us as a commission right now? Well, we could do nothing, right? I mean, we could just allow the jail to continue to decline and the services that these people are entitled to. So what? Now, we'll get sued, and we will ultimately pay a lot of money if we don't do that. But we could. Not my option. We could, in the alternative, we could say instead of going into a high turnout election in the general election in 26, let's do what our school board friends do. Let's take the low turnout election. Let's push this back later into maybe early 27 or late 27, and when nobody's showing up to vote, let's do it then. Easier. Or, by the way, I think that's a bad idea. I think that lacks transparency and is manipulative. Or we could push it back to the last, maybe one in the last part of 28, the general election then. But for the same reasons that our predecessors elected not to do that when they renewed it in 2008, I think makes sense here. You don't push something this critical, this essential to the last available election. So when is the right time to do it? Well, I think the most logical one is the general election coming up at the end of this year. It is also the one that's most likely to get the most exposure, the most voters weighing in on this analysis. So it was suggested, well, what we could do is just increase our general millage and fund it that way. And I think we do have a little bit of layer yet we might be able to add without having to go to the voters. Well, yeah, maybe we could do that, but I think that's disingenuous as well. This issue is too important. This is something that should go to the voters. Let the voters make the decision without us just unilaterally raising the property tax. So we could also, I've heard, well, let's do 2 elections. Let's do a first election now, and then when we get the capital, maybe more, capital building needs more specified, maybe we do a second election. I mean, elections cost money. They cost time on us. I mean, I just don't see that there's a value in doing that instead of putting this all into one election. Or what we could do is, don't raise the taxes, let's just rebalance how we spend our general fund now. Well, again, we could do that. We could cover what we need to do at the jail and just pull money from all the other services that we provide. I don't like it, because that's gonna be 100 decisions that we're gonna have to make about shorting other services we do around the county. I just think that's a terrible idea as well. So balance it all, do your due diligence, ask the right questions, investigate. You know, I was chair, as you know, for 3 years. There wasn't an important decision that I didn't put to this board that didn't have 1, 2, 3, or more commissioners say, oops, I need more time. Everybody needs more time, I get it. But we all function in a limited time environment. And so my urging is take the time you do need to answer the question to satisfy your due diligence. And I suspect that I have done that, and I think my colleagues have also done that. So there are concerns raised. Again, we're taking it too early. I think I've already addressed. I don't think this is too early. I think this is the most prudent time to do it. We don't have community engagement. Well, I get that, though I would suggest, and thank you to our council for the opinion, because I've always thought that there's a significant difference between the kinds of millages where we have them requested from the community and they're going to be administered by the community versus our internal operations. Timing is too quick. Well, folks, I mean, I've known for years this millage is going to run. It comes at an end at the 20 years. And if that caught you off guard, well, I don't want to say shame on you, but shouldn't have. You should have known. That it was going to be pressed this year, not a surprise. Shouldn't have been. That we have time from May's specific request from the Sheriff's Department till now, yeah, hey, I'd like to have more time too, but is it so much shortage of time that you couldn't do your due diligence? But if you come back and say, I've asked and asked and asked, and the Sheriff's Department won't give me that information, maybe that makes sense, but I highly doubt that happened. I highly doubt you did not have the opportunity to ask all the questions you wanted to ask. So I don't know about my constituents, whether they have done all the due diligence to vote on this yet. I doubt they have. That's not where we are in the process. We're in the process where this commission has to do its due diligence and decide, do we send it to the voters? I've done my due diligence. You might not all agree with me. We didn't all agree after doing due diligence on the early childhood millage. We may not. I'm satisfied that I have had the time to do the due diligence, and I'm comfortable supporting this proposal at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Commissioner Morales for a second.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to kind of find like a happy medium here. I'm wondering, would it be possible to do like a headly reset and just bring that millage back to the original, or maybe even write it into the millage language so that, I don't know, some kind of like fail-safe of like, if this doesn't pass, then it would just be renewed at the original rate or something like that.
I guess that's a question for council, if we could. Certainly, Commissioner, to answer your first question, it would be within the authority of the board to propose to the voters any rate up to, I don't know if there's a cap on the ceiling, but any rate in between or less than, or what we have today would be within the authority of the board to answer that piece of it. I guess that I didn't quite catch the second part of it. Council, if you could maybe assist.
So as I understand, you're wondering whether that would be in order to make a motion to amend it at this point, or is it?
This is just a curiosity question of if it's possible to include we're proposing this millage at amount A, but if the millage doesn't pass, then it will remain at amount B, which was the original millage.
I don't think that would be proper ballot language, because it would be one tied to the other. They need to be independent questions.
Okay.
So it'd certainly be able to bring that if it were to fail in November, I think this board would be charged with how are we going to bring this in a subsequent election and what that language would be.
Okay, thank you.
If the question failed in November, just to put a finer point on that, if this board puts it to the ballot and the question failed in November, we would default to the current millage rate until the expiration of the current voted millage. So just hopefully to answer that question a little bit more for you, Commissioner.
A little bit, yeah. Thank you.
You're dying to correct me.
It's not a correction, Chair, but acknowledgement if it does reject, and it's no, we have 2 more elections, I think, after that to submit an alternative proposal.
Correct. That's correct, yes. Anybody else for discussion, questions, comments? Commissioner Womack for a second.
Yes, I think that what some of my colleagues are saying is that letting the public know exactly what was going on is what is bringing a little pushback when it comes to this millage. And I think as we move forward, that we should do a bipartisan effort to make sure that the public is involved. I also would just like to say with some of the services we talked about, when it's the medical, having a chance to walk through the jail and see what we have in medical and what we need to increase to help those inmates. Dental, I think one of the things when we talk about recidivism rates, we need to also start as an indicator, just bringing this up since we do have the sheriff department here and a light on this situation. I think education is going to be very important when it comes to the recidivism rate and being able to get reports back on those who may have came in that are adults who are spending anywhere from 6 months to a year in there, pushing them towards their GEDs. One of the things I like we've initiated at the Sheriff's Department, helping people get their IDs. That's something that I took to Prosecutor Blair. When I first came, he took it to Jocelyn Benson, people who are been in prison when they come back. Maybe their loved ones haven't kept their birth certificate. Maybe their parents aren't even alive when they come out. So just want to highlight some of the great things that have come, but I don't hear us talk about education and GEDs. And I think that's very important that we do that. And as I say, us working together is the only way we're going to be able to satisfy the public. So I think when it comes to public engagement, today we have a lot of people here because it came out from Commissioner's Facebook. It came from an effort to get the public here. So I think when it comes to these millages and the public say they didn't know, I think we had to take a little bipartisan effort and sometimes some bipartisan blame on making sure we get the public involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else who wishes to make comment? Commissioner Teal, Vice Chair Teal.
Thank you, Chair Green. I had the opportunity to sit on the subcommittee, so I've already had all of my questions answered. I've put in my due diligence, and I've had the opportunity to give my opinion, and I've already supported this once. So I'm not going to go on too long, and I agree with a lot of what Commissioner Steck said. So there's just a couple of points that I want to make some clarification. This process followed the process that we used for the most recent millage that we just passed for Zoo Museum. The subcommittee did its work. The board also had a work session so that everybody had a chance to get their questions answered and to provide their input, and then it came to the board. So it's the same process. I know Ready by 5 has been brought up a few times here. I also served on that millage subcommittee. That group met 3 times within a 6-week period. So it's a very similar timeline there. The other thing that I just want to point out, this jail is not a partisan building. This is an obligation. This is something that we have to provide. And so this is a service that we don't have a choice. So one of the things that I wanted to do as somebody who's fiscally conservative is look at if this is not passed, what would we do? Could we cut to get there? And the answer is no, not without cutting entire departments, parks, social services, services to our community. We could not fund this jail, which is an obligation, without cutting entire services to our community. And that's just not something that I'm willing to do. And for that reason, I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. I give you a little bit of leeway, Commissioner Morales, because I did for Commissioner Steck for technically a third, but please, go ahead.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm just trying to really kind of get like a full grasp of the picture. I'm curious, when does the county's operating millage expire or go up for another renewal?
Go ahead, Al.
The county's operating millage was permanently fixed in 1982.
Permanently?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was gonna suggest that maybe it might be a good, because it is a clear, like a need, right? I was wondering if maybe we could just roll that into our millage and just increase our operating millage in general, since they're part of us.
I mean, what you could do is have a vote of the people to restore the millage to the allocated amount, which is what was set in 1982, and then decreased by Headley. But that would be a separate ballot proposal to do that.
Okay, but it is an option in the future?
It is. It could be an option in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think, this is a first. I think everyone, well, unless Commissioner Merchant wants to say something, everyone's done a first. So I will call on Commissioner Faber for a second.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I'm a product of the 90s, Gen X. You know, this first millage in 1990, a lot has changed. I still just don't think it's prudent to fund our core mandated service off of a special millage, especially one that duration is primarily dictated by a bond for a facility opposed to what we really need for the ongoing support of this core service that we are required to provide. And that is some of the alternatives that I really think we needed to look at. Commissioner Steck, you brought up a couple alternatives. We needed to see those laid out before us in a more concrete way, opposed to just taking language from 1990, 40 years ago, and saying cut, paste, repeat. That's the work that we need to do. That is why I don't think this is ready for voters.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment, discussion, questions? All right, I see none. I just have some brief remarks. Everything that I think needs to be said has pretty much been said. I want to underscore that I made every effort possible to make this a transparent and open process. I'm disappointed that once again, my integrity has been called into question. It's unfortunate. And I understand when that happens from members of the public. I don't like when it happens from people on this board. But I get that that's what happens. So I actually do appreciate that folks came and shared their perspectives this morning. I really push back on the concept that we did not do this in a transparent way. As Commissioner Vice Chair Teal said, just as many meetings as in fact, more meetings for the subcommittee as the Ready by 5 millage received. I'm really confused about the apples and oranges conversation that's happening over Ready by 5 this morning and in the public. I am disappointed but not shocked at the price some of my colleagues are willing to pay to score some cheap political points. I do not think that there has been a very good effort to be honest with the public about what this is and isn't. I am disappointed that we have an issue that should not be partisan, but just like everything else, we're allowing the toxicity of what happens at the federal and state level to leak down here into local government, and that's highly disappointing. So just now that I've got some of that off my chest, I really appreciate the work that the Sheriff's Office has done in working with us on this. I really appreciate the engagement from our team, from the Fiscal Services Department. I feel strongly that this is not the board's responsibility to completely educate and inform the public prior to us recommending something to the ballot about how that should be voted on. As my colleagues have said, I also am not a big supporter of increased taxes. I don't really think that's a great thing for us to endeavor to do. But I do feel like the general public should have the opportunity to weigh in. Commissioner Morales suggested it, not suggested it, but just, put it out there, that we could raise the general millage. I don't think that's appropriate for us to go down that path instead of allowing the public to have an opportunity to vote, instead of allowing the residents to have an opportunity to vote. The sheriff's office has acknowledged that they've got education work to do. I think that it is up to the sheriff's department, to a certain extent the county, to help inform the public about what this is and what it would and wouldn't do over the next few months. I think that'll be very good, and I think we'll have a really robust conversation around that. But I just wanted to thank everybody for the engagement. I know that, contrary to what may have been omitted, many commissioners did take the opportunity to attend and tour the jail and see and hear directly about all of the issues that we're facing. Every one of the commissioners and the public had the opportunity, if they wished to attend the work session that we had on this, the committee meetings that we had on this. Yes, it was a truncated timeline. Commissioner Steck laid out a lot of the reasons why I think that was appropriate. And I'd very much like to see us, I guess I just want to express my disappointment in the decision by some people to turn this into a political conversation when it did not need to be a political conversation. This is a question of whether we should keep maintaining the things that we own and best serve our residents. And we've pulled levers in this room today to get people riled up and misunderstand what's happening and not share the entirety of the truth with folks. So I'm disappointed by that. At any rate, I'm encouraged by how we're moving forward, and I look forward to the discussion in November. And I'm looking forward to put the conversation where I think it belongs, in the hands of the residents, and we'll give them the opportunity to weigh in. With that, I see no more discussion. I'd like to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to adopt Resolution 70, Commissioners Boojak.
Yes.
Morales.
No.
Pakla.
No.
Minority Vice Chair Faber. No. Commissioners Womack. No. LeGrand. Oliver King. Hennessy. McLeod. Sparks.
No.
Vice Chair Teal.
Yes.
Commissioners Halsted.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Burl.
Yes.
Ponstein. Steck.
Yes.
Hildenbrand.
Yes.
DeBoer.
Yes.
Merchant.
Yes.
Morse.
Yes.
Chair Green.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 11 yeas, 5 nays. The motion passes. Resolution 70 is adopted.
Thank you. We will move to agenda item number 8, which is public comment related to general county matters. Anybody that wishes to address general county matters this morning? Good morning, D.
How y'all doing? D. Jones, passionate entrepreneur and visionary. I'm here to speak about economics. We do have the second worst city in America for economics here, which is the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so as these constituents spoke about jail increases and tax increases, I think we need to increase our activity on truly equitable economics, because I'm just tired of, I'm pretty sure the largest population in our county jail is African Americans. And for us to be able to be fiscally responsible, I do believe that we do need better facilities. People complain about the facilities and the conditions of the jails and things like that, but I also think that you guys need to do the better due diligence of what we have in our general county funds to be sure that it actually is increasing economic opportunity for all constituents, because the Republicans do control the county, and so usually people weigh in and they have their opinions, but you guys actually have more people on the Republican Party than the Democratic Party, so usually you can pass these ballot initiatives and you can pass these votes, and it works in your favor. And so I ask that people do get out and vote. If you guys don't like what the Kent County Board is presenting, you can vote these people out of office. I'm not saying that you guys aren't good people, but people do have a choice. It is an election day to day. And so people can choose to vote people out of office if you don't like how people are voting, if you don't like the county is ran. We can have a continued Republican county, and I think you guys do work with the Democrats. But we can eventually have a Democratic-ran county. So I just ask people to use their voice and that you guys use the fiscals that you guys have to increase economic activity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment related to general county matters? Good morning.
I would just like to say, Aaron Howard. Yes, thank you. The comment that this has become kind of a political matter irks me. This county is controlled by Republican control. You are partisan. Our sheriff is a Republican. You are partisan. You are elected to be stewards of our tax dollars based on what your party's ideals are. I don't know why you're shaking your head. You are stewards of our tax dollars. When we are here discussing issues with transparency about how you are asking to collect our tax dollars, we don't disagree on the basis that our jails need to be funded. I brought up in my story, my grandfather built that jail. We have issue with how you expect us to put our tax dollars forward. It is to come from reasonable process, research, and long-term engagement. This is a political process. It is a partisan process. We are not here to score partisan cheap shot points. We are the taxpayers that elected you to these positions. Our opinions matter because our tax dollars aren't just going to go towards this millage, but they continue to fund your salaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Good morning.
I'm sorry that your feelings were hurt. It's part of the job. This is political. The air we breathe is political. The water we drink is political. The roads we drive on, it's political. It's all politics. And you get to decide for your party and the way that you lean, how you want to run things. And you need to know, many of us do not agree with it. We do not agree with your philosophy. I want to see us put less people in jail. What are we doing to avoid mass incarceration? I am not proud of our history. Slavery, segregation, mass incarceration. It's continuing on today. It hasn't ended. What are we doing to have smaller jails instead of larger jails? What are we doing to work together as a community for what's best for us in our community? What are we doing to stop doing the job of ICE, which was a federal agency adopted after 9/11 on false pretenses? It needs to be abolished. What are we doing to abolish ICE? What are we doing to ensure we're not working with ICE? It's a federal agency that's gone rogue because of our current politics. Let's not get hurt feelings and talk about the hard things, and let's not put people down that don't agree with your politics.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Teresa. I live in Kent County. I had this huge, long thing to say by my dear friend who is 46 years younger than me, but she's working. So I told her that I thought it would be best if it came from her voice, because Ben, I am so sorry you're disappointed. I am so sorry. It breaks my heart. You aren't disappointed in what ICE is doing to your neighbors, what the flock cameras are doing right down the road from your house. You are not willing to stand up, even though you don't have the authority to do anything about ICE, but you still will not open your mouths and let other people see how you really feel, or one way or the other. Evidently, you support ICE. And our sheriff working with ICE, and we've seen it. We have FOIA from it. There's a video, and none of you believe it. Have you noticed, have you seen GRPD working with ICE this past week, protecting the ICE agents? I know you're disappointed, Ben, that I'm off the agenda a little bit, but I am tired of your disappointment because your disappointment affects the rest of us. People aren't using this platform as a political advancement. And if they are, you are too.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Good morning.
Dan Hesse. Thank you, everyone, for comments today. I was not planning on commenting today, but, Chair Green, I just wanted to express my disappointment that, that was not a unifying statement, given, the partisan nature with the Ready by 5 millage, a couple of years ago for very similar reasons that had so much more time. And, the reasons that were used to not support that versus today, to me, are very hypocritical. We have a county that has voted blue in the last several elections, so if you want to talk about making it a political issue, we have 12 Republicans, 9 Democrats, and, with the standing rules that were altered, in the last section, which gave you a lot more power, I think the least that you could do is, not turn this into, a political discussion like it is and work towards more bipartisanship.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? All right, I see none. Okay, Mr. Snedeker, please.
My name's Charlie Snedeker. I want to talk about transparency while I have the opportunity. First off, you heard mentioned that a FOIA request was finally delivered to those people who requested it to find out that our Kent County Sheriff has made an agreement with ICE, a 287 agreement, which you told us they wouldn't do. But however, the sheriff has decided as of, I believe it was March of 2025, that she was going to do what she wanted to do. Let's talk about transparency. There recently was a court hearing in which our undersheriff revealed that his department, the sheriff's department, is operating what they call a real-time intelligence center. The real-time intelligence center is in charge of surveillance of different individuals in this county. I don't know who's funding it, but it's happening. It reminds me very much of a J. Edgar Hoover type thing, but I just want you all to know that all the things that you applauded the sheriff's department about doing, please do not hesitate to let that cloud your vision. There are things that need to be looked at. There's transparency that needs to be public. I also want to apologize, Commissioner Green, for your hurt feelings. I often have thought of you as a person who probably should read the fable about the boy who cried wolf. There's a lot of truth there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
Do I need to state my name again?
Yes,
Steiny
please.
Gant Jordan. I'm a business owner, 28 years in the city of Grand Rapids, and a taxpayer on several properties. And so this conversation today was really crucial for me. Thank you for all the information that was shared so I can take back to my community. I want to encourage you all to think about if this moves forward, this being the millage for the Sheriff's Department, think about how you can encourage and utilize and educate those inmates that are in the county jail right now. This would be an opportunity for you to do something different. And just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be, but this is a way to kind of help them. You say one of the goals is for them not to come back. Well, what are you doing to make sure that that happens, right? Like not you directly, but how can these funds kind of help ensure and do a different, perform a different practice? Start doing something different. One thing that I do know is that many of my people are in there for reasons that they should not be, right? And so we do know that the policing and the law enforcement have abused our Black community, which I am so tired of. And there are things that can be done in a different fashion. And I'm going to encourage you all to take this opportunity to think about what that could look like. So you talk about upgrades, how can you utilize them? You talk about education, how can you utilize them to help? Some of them in there are educators. Utilize them, right? And they need to learn skills. Utilize them. I mean, you're upgrading, how can you utilize them in the skilled trades? Some of them have skills that are in there. But me personally, I would love to take a tour through there to see what's missing, because I've heard plenty of stories, and they don't align with what we're being told. So, thank you. Stop dinging at me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ted Joe. You know, I had not intended to come back up here until the last word. I think it is okay for a chair to talk about what we're doing out here. We're not the professionals. We are not the representatives. But when you have the bully pulpit and the ability to have the last word, and you take that opportunity to make it about you, to make it personal, to make it partisan, because what you were saying was every bit as partisan as what you were excoriating other people about. You have the last word. And every time you sit there and make faces at what we're doing and what we're saying, you are using your form of expression to make political statements as well. There is a level of a decorum and professionalism that we expect from our representatives, for sure. But from the chair, the person who moderates the discussion, the person who decides the balance of what is and what isn't discussed in business, to have and to take upon yourself the ability to have the last word and to make it a passive-aggressive political statement is beyond the pale. And I wasn't meaning to come up here, but like many people, you made your own situation worse, and I am sorry if that hurt your feelings.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have two things. My name's Sandra Tosma. I live in Rockford. And I have two things. The first is we spent a lot of time this morning talking about whether the jail needs more money, not the fact that the whole thing seemed rushed. There were some, but mostly it was whether, and plenty of people might agree with you. The second thing is, I used to be like the majority of you until I started reading. I have a book that I want to recommend that many of you read because it will open your eyes about mass incarceration, why things are the way they are, and it is The New Jim Crow. I cannot remember the name of the author. I think her name's Michelle something. But if anybody knows, you want to tell me?
Michelle Alexander.
Michelle.
The administrator said it's Alexander.
Alexander, that's it. Thank you. And so if you have not read it, you should, and it will open your eyes. Now, I'm an advocate for Blacks, for Hispanics. I do what I can because from my white privilege, I had no idea. Absolutely none. So open your eyes, read a book. I have a whole bunch. You can contact me in Rockford. I'll lend them out. Happy to do that. So I would recommend you educate yourselves about some of those things too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we will move on to agenda item number 9, which is commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments this morning? Commissioner Morse.
Thank you, Chair. Quickly, if you are joining us on Thursday at the reception, I would just recommend taking it from business casual down to casual. It's going to be warm, and don't be afraid to wear your muck boots or cowboy boots if you still have them. 4 o'clock at the Grand Agricultural Center.
Thank you. Others? Commissioner Steck.
Thank you, Chair Green. So Commissioner Faber, Commissioner Halstead, and I received yesterday at Network 180 an updated report on the performance of the Behavioral Health Crisis Center over its first 2 years. And I would encourage you all to look for that report as it comes out. It is a great acknowledgement of how we have been able to substantially improve the services that we are providing to those that have behavioral health needs in our community at a better cost. So please look forward to that. It's a great story.
Thank you. Commissioner Faber and then Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to recognize our colleagues in the room that have a little more at stake today, Commissioner Pakla, DeBoer, and Womack. Just want to say congratulations on your campaigns. I look forward to looking at the results later tonight. It's always a difficult thing to put your name out there regardless of who you are and what you do. And so I just want to congratulate you on the work that you've done. I know your feet are probably sore from all the door knocking, but congratulations on making it to August 4.
Thank you. Commissioner Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair Green. On that same note, I wanted to give a shout out to our clerk's office, our county clerk, Lisa Postumus-Lyons, Rob McComber, our elections director, Mike Sullivan, for the professionalism that they showcase in the clerk's office on this election day and every election day. So I appreciate you, and thank you for your public service. I know you take your job seriously, and I know it's a priority to make our elections the best that they can be. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to feel I'd be remiss to not express my appreciation for your leadership of the board. I think we've not always agreed on all the topics that are before us, but I've always known you to be one who leads with integrity and makes sure that everybody has a chance to get their questions answered, to understand the issues, and to really have an open process, and that is the case here as well. And I think looking at this, through partisan lenses, some might look and feel like the motivations for opposing this today by members of the party opposite of mine might view that as actually opposition to supporting law enforcement. I actually look at it as a chance to celebrate that we have a bunch of new voices for lowering taxes. And I think we should continue to have ongoing debates on these topics as they come before us. And I just want to say I appreciate you, Chair, for your leadership and your integrity through this whole process and all of the processes we've had in your tenure so far.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Commissioner comments? Commissioner Steck, did you already go? You went.
Remember that.
It says done on here. Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to give, I know sometimes we kind of recognize members of, employees of the county that depart, and I want to just recognize Richie. He was a cook for a good while at the Kent County Community Action Department and was phenomenal at the job. For those of you who are not aware, it's a single person cooking over 50 and sometimes even 200 meals a day, which is a pretty impressive feat. I think even with my family of 10 people, I really only cook like 30 a day. So I'm very impressed with him, and I wish him the best in his next endeavor. So thank you, Richie, wherever you are.
Thank you, Richie, for your service to the county and our residents. Anybody else? Commissioner Halstead.
Today's election day, make sure you get out and vote, but also today is National Night Out Day. I know Kent County has 2 different national night outs planned, and our first responders from across the county are going to be in a multitude of places. So good family-friendly events for our neighborhoods if you want to be involved.
Thank you. Commissioner Womack.
Just want to thank everybody that spoke from the board, everybody that spoke from public comment. Being a historian, I love to watch the documentaries. I love to read history. And every time you see a defining moment that changed the world, it sounds like this. People with opposite views, people with opposite directions. But I just finished by saying this is what democracy looks like.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Commissioner Sparks.
Thank you, Chair. Forgive me. I don't want to end on a negative note. I really don't. But I feel that if we have a difference of opinion, we were not told that we were trying to score party points when we voted differently for the early childhood village. We were not told we were trying to score party points when we voted different for the zoo. We are here to represent the public. We also have our own minds. We're not controlled by anyone. We are here to do, like I said, we operate with integrity. I believe that for all of us. So to be told that we're not, and to also be told that we're trying to score party points, or people are trying, you didn't say me particularly, but it's a slap in the face to my colleagues. And I did not want to say that publicly. I really didn't, because I do respect you, Chair Green. But I think we have to be very careful when we start saying things like that. All we asked was to wait. We didn't say that we did not agree that our jails need more money, that our jails need to be taken care of. We did not say that. We only asked to wait. So please forgive me. I respect you. And I really thought when you took the chair position that you were doing a really good job. And I'm not saying that you're not now, but I just really want to be careful that we don't take the monkey on our back for the national issues that happen, and we start to feel that our voices should be quailed. I remember when I first started as a commissioner, I had a question, and one of the senior commissioners shut me down, and I did not for a year say anything on this dais because I was in fear, and I'm admitting this is very vulnerable for me. I was in fear of being shut down again. But I was elected to do a job, and I'll be damn well that I'm going to do it. And my voice is not going to be quailed, and neither should any of our voices. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? I would just want to say there were 2 things. I certainly didn't mean to offend everyone up here, but when I said the price that we're willing to pay to score cheap political points, some of you know exactly what you have been doing over the last few days, and it's not certainly everyone. And it is an effort to score political points. And the price is the erosion of the trust among this board, which leads to the erosion of the trust of our local government with the public. And I am certainly not saying folks can't disagree. We disagree all the time. I am certainly not saying that. I'm certainly not speaking to the public. I thanked you guys for being here. I appreciate you being here. I don't mind getting called to the carpet. You disagree, that's just fine. We can have a disagreement. I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with not having conversations with me, the board members, not reaching out. There were a lot of people that said we didn't have a transparent process. I didn't hear one person offer an amendment in the committee or today. I think that would have been a perfectly acceptable solution. So I don't want to belabor the point either. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm frustrated. My feelings are not hurt, but I am frustrated that we are descending down that path as a group. And that is the price that we're willing to pay. And that's a high price to pay, to go behind each other's backs and organize against each other without picking up the phone and having conversations. So I'm sorry that members of this family are having a fight out in front of everybody in the public, but that's where we are. I'd rather have frank and honest conversations in person. I welcome that with any resident as well. And the last thing I'll say is, I mean no disrespect, and I don't believe you meant to be disrespectful. The gentleman said, we're stewards of tax dollars based on party ideals. We're stewards of tax dollars, period. Not based on party ideals. We have to run with an R or a D next to our name. Maybe that shows what lens we view the world through, but we're stewards of tax dollars, try to do the best thing for the community, not to serve any other interest or a party. So that's why I made the face. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. We had a fundamental disagreement about that, I think, because we are not here to serve one interest. We're here to serve every resident. So I've belabored the point too much. I do appreciate the work and the engagement today. I appreciate the public being here. And we will be moving on to the finance meeting in about 10 minutes, Chair. And I'd like to ask that if you're not serving on finance as a commissioner, you're welcome to stick around in the back, but let's make sure we clear the dais so we can get that meeting started. So with that, I will call on Commissioner Morales for a motion to adjourn.
Chair, it is my delight to request that we adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn.
There's support, supported by Vice Chair Teal. Questions, comments, discussion? There are not. We are adjourned. Thank you.